Thank you to Paradox for sponsoring this video. If you want to pick up the new Stellaris DLC, Astral Planes, please use the link in the description or the pinned comment. My lords, I have much to report. Today we shall cover the following: the new and frequent tears in space that we have designated Astral Rifts, how we managed to access these rifts, witnessing the literal death of a universe, the entity that we've designated the Formless, and how we acquired the device known as the Eternal Throne, a device capable of ascending humanity into literal gods. I do not overstate this. I shall detail the events from the beginning, starting with the discovery of the first Astral Rift. Events begin with Dr. Livingston, who was stationed in the Zevox system, studying the tear that had formed in space. I shall detail her report for you now. Stardate 2378.48. Several days ago we entered the Zevox system with the intention to investigate this extraordinary rift that has appeared in space. We have designated it Astral Rift Alpha. While studying the rift, we appear to have inadvertently destabilized it. It has led to violent distortions in space and time bubbles are being released from the rift. To be caught in one leads to significant temporal distortions. Indeed, probes captured inside these bubbles are experiencing time flow at alarmingly different rates, some much faster, some much slower. We continue to investigate. Several more days have passed since my last entry, but we have determined that friction is in fact the problem. When we attempt to probe the rift using conventional probes, they rub against space-time and cause these bubbles to be released. However, using a perfectly smooth spherical vessel appears to allow us to pass unimpeded. Work is underway to develop a device that we are tentatively calling a Rift Sphere. We hope that once completed, this will allow us to enter and explore this spatial anomaly. Several months have now passed, but I'm pleased to report that we have developed and constructed a Rift Sphere. This should allow us to slip between the folds of astral space. Constructed of a highly advanced, perfectly smooth nanomaterial, the sphere is able to frictionlessly glide through turbulent areas of space and time. As we are unsure where we will be when we arrive, each sphere is connected to an anchor cable. This will allow us to be pulled back in case of emergency. The cables are tethered to the science ships back in our own dimension. We entered the rift. As the sphere passed through the rift, we experienced a wild burst of acceleration. The tremendous gravity of this universe was pulling us in. After a short, uncomfortable and dangerous ride, we found ourselves floating within a dense cluster of star systems, every one of which was well within range of the USS Intrepid's limited sensors. As far as we could tell, this comprised the totality of the universe. Initial reports indicated incredibly high levels of dark matter, and what's more, the mass was constantly increasing. As a direct consequence, the forces of gravity are intensifying over time. It would appear that we are in a micro-universe, and it is shrinking in size. In due time, we predict that it will completely collapse into itself. The problem that we face is that we cannot accurately determine when this will happen. The sphere's systems have been acting strangely since we arrived, and various data points have disappeared from the computer core. It's almost as if the data itself is being unwritten. Elsewhere, a potted plant was observed lifting its roots and returning to a seed. The flow of time is clearly unstable here. Shrinking plants and lost data were only the start of our issues. The trouble has spread to the memory of the crew. Many appear confused, forgetting what they are working on, or even that we have entered the rift at all. Outside of this fear, the consequences are even more dramatic. The trajectory of asteroids will suddenly reverse, and planets will disappear into dust and gas. Entire systems are condensing into balls of volatile material, and time is clearly flowing backwards. It appears that we're caught somewhere in between. If we're correct, eventually the time will reach zero, and this universe will be reduced to the size of a pin. Although we appear to be somewhat isolated from the time effects, our sphere is obviously permeable. By synchronizing our computer with the ISS Intrepid outside the rift, we should be able to preserve the rapidly disappearing data. As a more drastic measure, we could use the unique properties of Astral Thread to repolarize the hull and seal the temporal link. I decided to trust in the expertise of our engineers, and we attempted to repolarize the hull. I'm happy to report that the engineers were successful, and we managed to successfully repolarize the hull. We are now well isolated from the most extreme effects of the time dilation. Our thought patterns have returned to normal, and we believe that we are able to continue the mission. We now feel prepared to study the unique physics of this universe, and we find ourselves with two options. We could navigate closer to one of the stars for a direct observation of its unbirthing. On the other hand, the very edge of existence would be a perfect vantage point to watch the end of time. As we already understand how stars and planets are made, but no one has ever witnessed the edge of a universe, we decided to go and observe. We travelled far beyond the cosmic horizon, a feat that would normally be impossible for us to achieve. The edge of the universe was an absolute, nothing less, and extended past all rationality. Looking towards the centre, we witnessed everything coalesce into a single point in space. The physics data that we have collected is literally astronomical. However, we feel lingering any further may prove a fatal mistake, and as such, we are returning immediately. In the aftermath of the exploration of the rift in the Zevok system, humanity is alight with enthusiasm to explore these new dimensions. Rifts are appearing across the Empire, and they all appear to be mostly similar. All of them leak this new particle called astral threads, which the physics department, I'm sure, will put to good use. However, without warning, a transmission was picked up, directed straight at the homeworld, Earth. Our scientists have determined its origin to be outside of our dimension, from another rift, and have only been able to translate a few words. They read, "Attune with the planes. We will find you. We will feed." Within mere moments of the transmission, a strange object suddenly appeared directly within Earth's defensive network of starbases. It's a crystalline sphere, reminiscent of our own Rift Sphere technology, and appeared without warning from no known trajectory. Such close proximity to Earth may represent significant danger. However, it is highly likely that this sphere contains valuable insights into the nature of dimensional travel. Despite the potential dangers, we chose to study the device. Our fantastic researchers studying the device have determined that it carries a detailed message. Encoded within an impossible network of crystal was a set of instructions. Followed to the letter, we were able to recreate the conditions inscribed around the sphere. A precise arrangement of gases and astral thread have worked to activate it, and shortly afterwards it simply disappeared, but in its place an astral rift has coalesced into view. This one appears visually different, and its existence invites exploration. We are preparing a rift sphere for exploration. We have entered the rift, but our data is showing that the scientists aboard have no biological presence, i.e. the ship cannot detect that they are still on board. Furthermore, something on the other side of the rift has taken hold of them, and their retraction device has been disabled. The first parts of data that we've received were unintelligible, but subsequent transfers are slowly piecing these messages together. We speculate that the flow of time is much faster on the other side of this rift, and we are in fact receiving communication in real time from across the breach. There are two options available to us. We can utilize AI to check for hidden patterns, or we can attempt to EMP the anchor cord and retract the rift sphere. Feeling that it was too early to give up, we chose to utilize AI to check for hidden patterns. The result was successful. The data contained a hidden message, and we were able to process approximately 1 word per day. The following is what we've received so far. We observe. Apology. Method. Unkind. Emergency. Understand. These words were hidden amongst heavy noise and incomprehensible data. The next 2 words that we were able to decode were home and witness. Amazingly, as our understanding of the alien data improves, we've also discovered the existence of visual data embedded within the noise. A projection of our galaxy could be pieced together from the images, along with a second image of a much smaller yet unusually dense system. Between the two, there appears to be a stretched series of astral rifts. We understood that this was a roadmap from our dimension to somewhere else. A small point of light was highlighted inside the image of our galaxy. Later analysis would confirm that this was our homeworld, Earth, shining brightly. A similar light was discovered to be marked in the neighbouring universe. It appears that they are showing us where to go. We're receiving more data than our computers can reasonably handle before it becomes corrupted or lost. We should prioritise the type of information we'd like to preserve. We can either preserve data on the particles coming from the rift, or preserve the field manipulation data. We chose to try and preserve what information we could on the particles leaking from the rift. We've received more images from the rift. A chronicle of this alien homeworld was shown to us in great detail. These beings formed millennia ago, a chance recombination of gases and energy that accumulated near a massive astral rift. They flow freely in and out of their planet as if they were part of the atmosphere, and at the end of each life cycle that essence disperses back into the planet and gets reborn. Cities in the sky fall and rise again. Civilization is formed on top of the previous civilization, with knowledge physically maintained by these astral particles. The degree of time passing was safely estimated to be magnitudes greater than the history of our known universe. In the end, we behold a civilization of awakened higher beings. Their physiology alone is more advanced than any technology we could even conceive. We have logged this new species in the database as the Formless. Once again, we're receiving more data than our computers can reasonably handle. We are working at maximum capacity. The Formless homeworld has now been revealed to us in more and more detail. This time we see individual inhabitants, beings of light, gas and astral material leaked from a nearby rift, living in what could only be described as a utopia. Eventually, a mighty structure was raised, an incredible piece of engineering. It stretched directly from their planet into the rift, allowing them to easily travel between this dimension and countless others. With such an astral conduit existing for so long between the planes, they have shaped many rifts to fit their specific needs. Their society stretches between a multitude of dimensions, colonizing entire universes, as we would colonize new planets. However, it would appear that their greatest achievement became their greatest disaster. The empire spread further than the astral conduit could maintain. Brighter and brighter the megastructure grew until the sight of it was difficult to look upon without shielding one's eyes, until it finally burst violently in a dimension-spanning explosion that fractured their civilization. We have managed to translate several more words: shattered kin, war, and help us. Mere moments after we translated those final words, a wormhole appeared nearby the crystal rift in the Sol system. We can only assume that this is a gateway opened by the Formless, with the hope that we will bring them aid. The system on the other side has been pulled into our dimension from somewhere else. Several strike forces are being prepped to enter and investigate the new system. Admiral Cole led 3 strike force fleets through the wormhole into this new system. It would appear that the other side of this wormhole seems to have taken us to the centre of the galaxy. It should not be possible for us to exist here, let alone an entire system. We wonder if there's perhaps some sort of dimensional manipulation at play. We are receiving multiple transmissions from an unknown entity. It appears that there has been a terrible mistake. We've been duped. Upon entering the system, we were contacted by the extra-dimensional beings that we know as the Aberrant. We were lured here as prey. The Aberrant immediately opened fire upon us. Fortunately, we had come prepared, and despite their vast technological superiority, they only had a small fleet. We were able to defeat them with no losses. As soon as the last Aberrant ship was destroyed, we received another transmission. It appeared to be from beings inhabiting a structure nearby the lone planet in the system. These beings were the Formless. They told us that more Aberrant were coming, and we must help them seal the rift, or risk annihilation. In this, we chose to trust the Formless. Sealing the rift seemed like the appropriate thing to do. After all, we had no wish to risk an unbidden invasion engulfing the galaxy. Thus, we fortified the system that, according to the Formless, was known as azilash. Over the coming months, we repelled several Aberrant invasion fleets successfully. Arc emitters were retrofitted to battleships, and they were extremely effective at range. Eventually, we received a transmission from the Formless, specifically a being called Zargiel. Apparently the rift had been sealed for good, and they now wish to open diplomatic relations with us. We of course had many questions for this Zargiel. It appeared to be in a constant state of flux, its form shifting between various realities, and their voice resonated It was a harmonic multitude, as if speaking on behalf of several beings at once. If we understood it correctly, it said, "The seal is set, and never again shall its children find this place again." We can only assume that its children are the unbidden, aberrant, and vehement. The being, although clearly intelligent, did not seem to be able to communicate well with us. We asked simply what it was, and all it replied with was, "You know us. We are beyond the rifts, and of the rifts you have seen." We followed up, asking why it was here, which it responded, "Our children, our broken children. They hunt us. They seek the throne. We hide it." My lords, we knew what this eternal throne was. The vehement speak of it themselves. It is what all three factions covet greatly, but up until this point we had no idea what it was. Perhaps the throne was a great weapon, perhaps it was merely a cultural artifact, but we would soon find out what it was. We asked the being, "What is this throne?" It responded cryptically, "Our eternity, our memories. If we have the blood, it is the heart. Safe now. We thank you." The council made a decision incredibly quickly, my lords. We demanded that this being give us the throne. After all, without our help, they would have been annihilated by the aberrant. It was ours to claim by right. We asked, and they immediately refused and became hostile. As such, Admiral Cole responded, and we attacked their last bastion, but they were weak. We were able to subdue and capture the station with little losses. The Formless that remained aboard was successfully exterminated, and all that remained was a mysterious device, the Eternal Throne. One needs simply to place their hand upon it, and they will activate its miraculous regenerative properties. The device functions as a sort of conduit into the astral planes, with incredible quantities of extra-dimensional material flowing freely through it. I cannot overstate the power of this device. Those of our people who are allowed access to this throne will become immortal. Those who are touched by its influence exist in reality, free from fear, wonder, or conclusion. We have become gods. Thanks for watching, folks. If you want to pick up Astral Planes, please click the link in the description or the pinned comment. And I hope you have lots of fun exploring the rifts. I'm sure I'll be bringing you many reports over the coming weeks and months. If you want to hear more Stellaris lore, please click the video on screen now.